Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kendrick Baylor, Life Doctor.
I'm Terrence Johnson, the life excavator.
And I'm Jeffrey Hart, the life champion.
Mel Pittman, the life encourager.
Woo!
Hey, if everybody sees an additional person today, that's because Mel is back. Mel is back, and she came back for the right topic. Today's topic is ego, edging God out. So let's have another great discussion today. We're going to hit the ego from all realms. We're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about work. We're going to talk about family. So strap in, enjoy the show, share it with a couple of friends. And as always, we're going to continue to move you forward. Feel like a radio person now.
Oh, good. You coming in good now. All right. Look, you want to start since this was the one you wanted to do. The radio personality.
All right. So, well, it came from Jeffrey. So, Jeffrey always talks about, edging God out. And so we was having behind the scenes conversation about the ego. And the ego is all about the self. And so one of the things we talked about sometimes why people, meet, challenges because they focus so much on self, but they edge, God's voice out and they can't hear his instructions. And so what we want to talk about is making sure you're listening to the right voice, making sure that whatever you're doing, that it's not to glorify self. And so as we dive into the text of the discussion today, just be thinking about situations that you've experienced, situations that you've been through when your ego was the reason that you didn't do the things that you set out to do.
All right. So I got a question starting off.
There
So
you go.
what it's not a hard question. Don't start easy. Uh so what I guess for each one of us, what is our definition of ego? How do we define it?
Mm.
So for me, the ego is to focus on selfish needs versus the optimal goal that connects you with purpose. So when you focus on your own selfish needs instead of the optimal goal that connects you with purpose.
Okay.
Mm. Let's see. I think ego would, for me, would be a overinflated confidence,
Okay.
whereas you don't recognize where your um, true help comes from. You think it's all about you. So I would say overinflated confidence.
Okay. Good. That's real good. Come on, Mel.
Um, ego would be where you think you are untouchable,
Okay.
that you're above everybody else. Even if you came from the same struggle or those people help you get to where you are, you feel like you're untouchable.
The untouchables. Male.
Okay, and then for me, I believe ego is a a false sense of security. So when you invest too much in your ego, you feel that that gives you comfort because who you are, your identity or your persona, is the thing that propels you forward. So when that is disrupted or that changes, then that makes you then want to have more control because you feel like that was what you invested in. And if that's
Mm,
taken away, then who are you then?
I
yeah.
want to take my answer back. I want to say the same thing, Terrence.
But then I add this other piece to it. The ego is about masking your insecurities.
Hmm.
The ego is about masking your insecurities because people need to inflate their ego because they don't want people to see them beneath where they see themselves. I say that again. People want to inflate their ego because they don't want other people to see them beneath where they see themselves. And sometimes we need other people to bring us down off of that high horse or off of that mountain that we put ourselves on
But
because
why?
we because we forget that it's not about us, and we forget that it's about the people that we serve or that we're leading. So whether you're a boss at work or you a boss in the home, we still can forget about the purpose or the outcome that we're trying to produce.
But does that mean you have an ego if you're trying to bring that person down who has the ego? Why is that
So
your job to bring that person? Not specifically you, but why is it a person's job to bring
it's
somebody
about the
down?
so it's about the intent. So if your intent is malicious, then yes, it can be about your ego. But if your intent is to help that person grow and to help them move forward and see that that's an area of growth for themselves, so they won't get in error, they won't, when that pattern or when that situation happens again, they can, take the next or the alternate route instead of going back to the habit route that continues them to spiral around and inflate the ego. I'm gonna jump out here, jumping in you and Jeffrey.
Now here, I want to go to Vic's comment. He said, "Ego for me is a worldview that is based primarily on your ability, skills, and things that benefit you." And I think that last part is important because we feel
Yeah.
that everything is supposed to benefit us, and you were talking about it too. Oh, he just had another comment. Hold on. It doesn't acknowledge the influence that others have on situations that you're involved in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you realize that you have, I'm gonna say, little to do with what happens in your life, but you're not as big of a part of your life happening the way it does as you think it does, as you think you do. And I think so instead of kind of feeding our ego, we feed kind of like our gifts and how we can benefit others. Kind of like what Kendra was saying earlier. And I think if we have the we have to make sure we ingest in the right things
Mhm.
for the right purpose. So some things we try to ingest just for us because we like it, or just food sake or whatever, or things we read or we watch. But to really be impactful, you have to ingest things that then can be shared with other people.
Mhm.
And so sometimes people can hoard their knowledge too. But then you recognize the more information you have that's trapped in your head, it would then make you overthink because you have so
Mhm.
many thoughts. The information that you upload is meant to download into somebody else.
Mhm.
I say
You're
it
talking
again.
good. You're talking
I say
good.
the information that you upload is for you to download the information into somebody else.
And then one of the things that I want to point out is hurt people sometimes have the biggest egos. Hurt people sometimes have the biggest egos. Because you hear people all the time about, I'm self-made. I'm self-made. I did it without anybody help. I did it by myself. Now, whenever you hear people say that, you automatically know that they're not being honest with themselves. And that their ego is distracting them from seeing all the people that pushed them to get ahead. Whether it was the uncles and aunts that sent them $15 a week while they was in college to get their education, or
Mhm.
the community joining together to send, put money, for them to go to college, or if it was the people that was investing knowledge in them, or it was the people that picked them up when they was down. The ego makes you look at situations a whole lot different than they really are. It makes you look at things one-sided. You forget about who helped you because you distracted by your own image in the mirror.
Mhm.
The person that has an ego issue has a tendency to stare at their reflection for too long. And when you
Hold up,
stare,
hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up. Say that again. Say that again.
I said the person that has a huge ego has an instance sometimes of staring at their reflection for too long. They start to, get, enticed, or they start to look at themselves as being bigger and better than they really are.
All right, so let me flip it right quick. So when is it good to have an ego, or is it good to have an ego?
I say it's always good to be aware of your ego, because this is the prayer that I've been praying, to separate me from my ego. So when I'm in a situation, it's not inflated by what I want to be, but it's the purpose of what God wanted me to do. So if I disarm or get rid of my ego in a situation, then I'm doing it for the right reasons versus my own reasons. But look what I did. I did an outstanding job. Look at how many people I brought to this. Look at how many books I sold. Look at how many people show up to see me.
Mhm.
So that's the ego talking. That ain't purpose.
Okay, I got something to add to what you were just saying. So if I do have an ego, then where is God's placement in my life?
It's definitely behind the ego. It ain't at the top.
Because you think about it, if I'm invested in myself, then how can I rely on God to do anything in my life?
Mm.
And so then I'm dependent on myself to then see for whatever I want to do. But what God has in store for me is bigger than that. But I can limit how much I can do based on one, like we were talking about before, putting too much extra baggage on myself to
Mm.
carry. It's not mine. But then also two is understanding that I have to have the balance, not even balance, but that support from God to do the things He wants me to do, because I won't be able to do them in my own might or strength or will. And that's what a lot of people, that's how they get burned out, because God provides us the tools that we need to do what He wants us to do. We think we can do them in our own power, though. And that's when we get overextended. So we want to, okay, so I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna let Kendra go. We want to do we want to do the things of God without God.
Mm.
So I was just gonna tell you to hit the promo so we can announce what we're doing again, and then I want for everybody that's watching to share this with at least two people. And if you one of the people that's talking, share this, hit your share button and share it with two people. So the ego, edging God out. Share this with two people as we're having this discussion. And join in because Vic is already dropping a lot of good nuggets as far as his comments, and they're definitely powerful. But it's definitely important to have a good awareness of what's the ego and what's not, and having a good awareness of self, because when to check yourself and say, "Nah, I don't need to say that," because it may be misinterpreted, or it may be said for the wrong reasons.
Mhm. All right.
So
Oh, go ahead.
so
Go ahead, Jeff.
so let me ask this. So I think what's the or is there a fine line between having an ego and being confident in your abilities?
Okay. So having a healthy confidence is because you understand what God has equipped you with, and so you're confident in that. When you have to be confident in yourself, that then can fuel your ego to where you you can't see your blind spots.
Mhm.
If you have confidence, you're very aware of your blind spots, um, and you know what to connect with to kind of deal with those things.
Yeah.
But God will use you in spite of those weaknesses, and so then you can be confident in Him, and where it gives you a healthy balance, because it's a balance of, I know He's pushing me into things that I'm not comfortable with, but he's equipped me to do these things so I can be confident in him. Oh
So-
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then
You go.
So I was about to define confidence so you get a different glimpse of it because it has a lot to do with what Terrence said and what Vic said. Confidence is the feeling or belief that one can rely on someone or something. So firm trust. And so similarities to confidence is trust, belief, faith, and credence. So confidence it has something to do with you, but you know it's not all to do with you, and you know that it's other people that contributes to you being who you are. And the ego is all about you and forgetting about everybody else.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good because I was thinking about what Vic said in the comment, and it's so I won't even say it's important. It's vital to have people around you that will tell you the truth. That will keep not even keep it 100 with you, keep it 1,000 with you, and tell you some things that may be difficult to hear, but it's food to the soul. And so sometimes you don't need some people that's gonna just throw a couple of jabs at you. You need somebody every now and then that's gonna gut punch you a little bit. So you can be like, okay, all right, let me hold on. Let me get my band back together. Let me get, because you want to be sure that you can build an endurance to things, and if the people around you are not being honest with you, then instead of just a gut punch every now and then, they trying to avoid you from getting knocked out.
Yeah. And then they surround themselves with you for your good and not to harm you. So when people give you the information, they're gonna tell you the purpose of why they're giving it to you. A person that's just delivering a knockout blow, not gonna tell you the purpose of why they hitting you. But if somebody tell you why they giving you a good punch and why you need to take heed to it, that's important. And it's important to keep those people around because that can keep you grounded before you get bigger than your circumstances. So there's a lot of people that's bigger than their circumstances, and they forgot that it's about the people that they serve, and they think it's about them. And so either you humble yourself, because the ego is what sets you up for your biggest demise. I'll say this again. Your ego sets you up for your biggest demise if you believe the hype, if you drink the Kool-Aid, if you drink the sugar water. All you doing is getting to your
Sugar water.
All you doing
What
is
just
getting to that highest peak. And once you get to that highest peak, it's a long fall from there. Some people recover and some people don't. So that's why it's important to safeguard or be aware of the ego, because some people fall and don't get back up because they don't have the right support system around them. Some people some people fall and they can get back up.
Everybody ain't from Glen Allen. We don't know nothing about no sugar water. I don't know about no sugar water.
Y'all have drunk some sugar water before. Don't act like
But kind of go back what Kenny said, a few minutes ago. Like I said, you can tell when folks have a big ego because like I said, it's all about them. And he kind of mentioned like, okay, look what I did, like I said, it's all about you. But if you can't function without people constantly pumping you up and telling you how great you are, then you will know that you have a big ego. Because what happens when the people are no longer there? Then who are you? So I think that's a good example of people that can have an ego is okay. I constantly need people to pump me up and tell me how great I am, but once they're gone, then what am I?
I'm gonna say this and then I'm gonna shut up because I know somebody got something powerful to say. One way to know if a person has their ego in check, if they okay with being celebrated from afar and they okay with being great behind the scenes. I'll say it again. You know if your ego is in check, if you're okay being great behind the scenes, and that you don't have to be celebrated every time something happens.
Is it? Isn't there a story in the Bible where this king had hired a man to follow him around to remind him that he's only a man? Isn't that like a story? It's somewhere in there. I don't know exactly where it is, but it was like
You do pop up in there. You get the good word. You know,
yeah. If somebody watching knows exactly where it is, please put it in the comments. But I think if I remember right, I think there's a story in the Bible about there's a king, and he hired a guy to follow him around to remind him every day that he's only a man. He's only a man. So I guess that's kind of a story of you need that in order to keep your ego in check, to remind you that you're not bigger than what you think you are. So it kind of has to bring you down so that you don't have this overinflated confidence of kind of who you are.
I just thought about something while you were talking. So, just going back to what you were saying, if you have inflated the picture of yourself, depiction of yourself, then how can you fit through narrower spaces? So, if I'm so tall, but God is calling me to another place, that place may have me to change my position. But in one phase of my life, I may have been in a different position, and this one is a different one. And so sometimes we'll reject the transition that God is trying to take us into because our position changes. So in one phase, we might have been a lead, like Kendra was saying, we might have been a leader, we might have been, CEO, we might have been director, we might have been administrator, and God's calling us to a lower position. So how can I be high of myself when God is gonna call me to be low?
Yeah. You're making me think about Joe Clark and Lean on Me.
Why you say that?
Well, his ego, so he was put in a situation to do great things. But throughout that process, he lost sight of who he was and why he was there. So somebody had to be there to correct his eyesight and check his ego. And Mrs. Narvaez was that one person, but also the lady from Carmen San Diego, I can't remember her name, she was the other person to check his ego. So he had one there for the positive to check his ego, and then he had another one there for the negative to check his ego to keep him on the journey or the path that he was supposed to be on. And we need people like that in our lives. And it go back to what Vic was saying earlier. Mrs. Narvaez was the person that was doing it for his good. The other lady just was doing it because she was pissed off with him. So she was trying to get him to the mountaintop and go and put that mighty blow on him, and he wasn't gonna be able to recover from it. And so that's why you need people around you to remove the ego and help you see the most important goal was to get those kids' test scores up.
Shoot, if you got kids, you got somebody around you all the time that will humble you. Kids will humble you very quickly.
Amen.
Mine do anyway. I don't know about anybody else's. Maybe mine just got smart mouths. I don't know.
That's a whole another topic right there. That's all I thought.
Listen,
All right.
David just left some words him and Vic. So
Yeah.
I guess we'll go back and hit him.
Marcus
we'll hit-
Aurelius.
Yeah, hit Vic.
All
And
right.
then,
So I got an angle. I'm about to, because we about midway. I'm about to shift to another place in the conversation. So just like what Kendrick was saying about Joe Clark and the movie Lean on Me. So biblically, you had John the Baptist, you had Jesus, and so their paths were linked, but they knew their roles.
Mhm.
One was to prepare the way, and then the other one would be the way.
Say it again.
But
You can't just skip past that. Say it again.
so one was to prepare the way, and then one was the way. But it was predestined in the womb, because you remember when both their moms were pregnant and their mother's stomach touched. So sometimes God has already predestined people to lead us into our purpose if we connect with them. We can't go further into our purpose until we search out for the people that will then continue to lead us. How we edge God out with our ego is because we don't want to connect with other people, and to then step outside of our comfort zone of the people that we're used to. So God is going to call us further out because he has more for us to do. Sometimes there's leaving a location, sometimes there's leaving a job, but it has to be movement. Because if God calls you to something, he can't call you to something and you stay still.
So I just found out I got an ego. I didn't even know I
Me
had
too,
one.
man.
Because I don't
Yeah,
I don't want to leave my comfort zone.
Okay.
Thanks a lot, Terrence.
I got a question for y'all. It ties directly to T was saying. Why don't people want to connect with others to move to that next step? Why
Let
do you
me
think?
answer that.
All right,
Okay.
go ahead, Mel.
Go ahead.
Why?
Because this is my life, okay? People can be exhausting. And because I've had experience with exhausting people, I would rather not give all people a chance. Because I don't want to have to be like, oh my God, here we go. I already know you're not part of my purpose. Like, I just wasted 10 minutes of my time. I could have been doing something else.
Oh, okay, hold on. Hold on, I gotta put it back on because I got to go. Hold on.
Hey, we're gonna have to invite Vic on. Vic showing out today.
Yeah, hold on. I gotta put it back.
Yes.
Said we can let someone being first keep us out of purpose as well. Jesus didn't have to be jealous of John because he was first and had a following. So that's just a mouthful. Hold up. I can keep going back. You must be hitting it too.
I had knocked it off. Go ahead and knock it off.
Okay. Okay, I keep trying to take
I
it
didn't
off.
touch it that time.
Okay. So that's one way we make our way harder, is because we won't allow somebody to go ahead sometimes to make our way smoother. Sometimes we want to go first and then make our way harder because we want to say we did it.
Mm-hmm.
But God will strategically put people in your path that have been further than you have, that have been where you're trying to go. But if you know your identity, then you'll know how to navigate that and the purpose of that. Because only way that could happen is because John the Baptist knew his purpose and he didn't allow other people to change what he knew his purpose was. And then Jesus knew his purpose and he didn't allow everybody around him to change what he knew his purpose was. So a lot of times we get off track because we listen to people that have not been ordained to speak into our purpose.
All right, so you made me think about 50 questions, but I'm only going to ask one. So it's a saying that people always say, and I don't think that we're qualified to say it. People always strive to be the best, and they say, I'm the best, but we're not qualified to ever utter those words. Because to say that we're the best is comparing us to somebody that we shouldn't compare ourselves to. So
Mhm.
in life, everybody struggles to be or strives to be the best. And when you get to the best, everybody's trying to get there and they're stepping on each other to get there. What if we were never meant to be the best? Because if we're the best, that means we can't grow any further. So we're not destined to be the best. We're destined to be better than we were the day before. And if we try to strive to be something that we can never attain, then that's the ego and that's not purpose. So it's okay to be great or good at your job, but being the best is something that we can never attain. And it distracts us from purpose and it draws us to the ego.
Yeah, I could. So I got a couple different thoughts in my head. I'm trying to see which way I'll go, because Kendrick was saying a lot of good stuff and what he just said in the comment. Um, so just like the scripture, iron sharpen iron, iron sharpens iron. That's what he does with the people that God places in our life. And there's a lot of people in our life that God didn't place. Some people in our life we chose, but God didn't place. I'm saying that again. Some people in our life we chose, but God didn't place. Because those people that God chose for us will work those areas out that we need to strengthen. And not in a negative way, and not in a way that's well, no, I'm gonna say it this way because that you made me think about tackle the text from a couple weeks ago. So everybody that comes in my space is working on me some type of way. Even the people I choose. Now God will ordain certain people, but even the people that God doesn't ordain is still working some out because God created all the people. So it's like we can't say like Lord, you know, help me deal with these haters. But God created the haters too, because the haters doing something for you. So you can't do one without the other. You can't say, "Oh Lord, bless me," and then don't have challenges.
Mhm.
Like how that work?
How they
You know?
say, "Ooh, Lord bless me."
And
Yeah,
and
Lord, bless
yeah,
me, but don't let me struggle, Lord. Let
hey,
me increase, but I don't want to be broke, Lord. It's like
yeah,
it don't work like that. You can't pick and choose how you want God to do what you want to do in your life.
yeah. And be leery of people that say they got haters.
Yeah.
I repeat that. Be leery of people that say they have haters.
Okay, so hold up. Let me say something added to that because I'm just gonna keep it 100 with folks. Some of y'all haven't done anything for people to hate on you for. So let's just keep it. Let's just keep it.
Keep it real, T.
Let's
Keep it
just keep
real.
it. A lot of y'all saying that y'all get hated. Y'all have not done anything for people to hate on you for.
Good night, y'all. I'm gonna go.
But then you are telling the truth. You telling them the truth. And then this actually an important question to set us up for the next piece. So why do we struggle at times with managing the ego? And then how do we recognize when you are making an ego-based decision or operating purely in ego? So I'll leave it up there. Why do we struggle at times with managing the ego? That'll be the first one. Why do we struggle with sometimes managing the ego? So I would say part of that is because we don't know who we are and we are enticed by the accomplishments or the rewards that come with the ego or celebrating the ego. Because sometimes the praise that comes with the ego, can be intoxicating, and we can gravitate towards that feeling, and we need to be celebrated more. And so we lose sight of what the ego was meant to do in our life. We lose sight of what the ego was meant to do in our life. And I'll stop there, T, and I'll let you, Mel, and Jeffrey go.
I think one of the ways that we struggle with is because we've been conditioned to think that in order to achieve success that we have to do it on our own. And I think it's also that mindset of, I got mine, so you better get yours. So so yeah, definitely, just having that mindset that, everything that I've accomplished or everything that I've set out to accomplish, I can do it by myself. I don't need anybody else to help me. It kind of go back what Kendra was saying earlier about you hear somebody say that they're self-made, success or whatever like that. But, like you said, somebody along the line had to help you out at one point.
I'm gonna throw this definition of ego in real quick, and then I'm gonna jump back out. It's a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. So a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. So why does one need a boost in those areas? Go.
Hello, say it again. Say it again.
So the ego, maybe a person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance. A person's sense of self-esteem or self-importance.
Okay.
So why does one need a boost in it?
All right. So I'm gonna tie it to what Vic's question was, and then I'll kind of bring it forward. So we struggle at times with the ego because of lack and because of fear. The times we want to be more self-important is because either we feel that if we don't do something or we don't perform or we don't project a certain thing, then it won't happen. So then I have to make it happen, because if I don't, I'm gonna lack this. If I don't do this, then something's gonna fall. Or my fear is, if I don't do something or I can't be patient, then the worst case scenario will happen. And so we trapped in this kind of limbo of like, okay, I'm trying to wait. Okay, I trust you, God, but kind of a little bit. Let me try this, but I'm gonna pray and I trust you a little bit, like a mustard seed a little bit, but I'm gonna keep. So it's hard for us to fully trust God because we've had issues of mistrust with other people. So how can I trust God to do something that people have not done for me?
And so, and I highlight these 2 points, and I shut up. So it goes back to us being intoxicated by praise. I said it again. We struggle with the ego sometimes because we are intoxicated by praise. We want people to think it's us versus the whole group that engineered the success of it. And then we feel like we've reached that pinnacle. And in order to stay up there, we got to push everybody out of our life, or push the voices that's trying to help us out of our life.
Okay. I'm trying to, because I'm looking at the time. I'm trying to see if I'm going to go into this piece, but I think I am. So, all right. So we've been talking about edging God out, and we've been talking about different pieces of that. But what if we are edging God out by trusting who He said we shall be, and not and because of who we are right now? So I'll unpack it. So
break it down a little bit.
right now our reality doesn't match what we envision. But maybe it's because God is preparing us uh, and changing our mindset, because our mindset doesn't match where He's taking us. So I'm gonna bring this up. In the Bible, there were a lot of people that were trusting God to do something, but He had to do something to them in order for them to manifest it. So if you look at Abram and Sarah, God couldn't give them what they wanted until He changed their name. So maybe we haven't reached where we're trying to go because we haven't allowed God to change our name to what we will be in our purpose. Our mindset is stuck in our past of what we have been. God wants to move us into who we shall be, which is our future, but we keep sabotaging the future by having an old mindset. So the very things that we say we want, what we speak is speaking from a past mindset and not from our future mindset. So then we then forfeit what we want in the future because we're still tied to our old self.
Is that
So what you're
ego?
saying is,
What'd you say, man?
I said, is that our ego though that's keeping us in the past, or is that fear? Or what you said, fear is the reason why we have ego anyway. Okay.
Yeah, and part of it is, we can't manifest the next thing because of what we ingest. So if we ingest the same things, then how can we have something different? And so sometimes we edge God out because we won't allow Him. We don't trust that what He's calling us for, we're equipped for. So we keep sabotaging and saying, oh, I don't have this. Oh, I don't have that. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, these people not going to listen to me. All this kind of stuff. And so we forfeit a lot of stuff because we try and operate from our own ego and what got us to this point. But God is saying, I got to shift you, but I got to shift you by changing your name. So, when He said, be not conformed in this world, be, renewed, by the renewing of your mind. He has to renew our mind from our old mindset. But we always conform to what we were always in our past. So it's the divide. I conform to the world, which is the world of my reality right now. When I get transformed, that's for my purpose of what's the future.
so what you're saying is everything that we're going through right now is to prepare our mindset for the thing to come.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's that saying, if nothing changes, then nothing changes. So if my
Mm-hmm.
mindset don't change, then my circumstances won't change.
Mm-hmm. And who you will be in the future, He already gave it to you. So just think about it. In life, you spend all your life trying to get back to where God called you to. Because when you were born, life kind of makes you forget what you were really called for. And so when you finally get back in alignment, that's who you shall be. And it's not really a thing of who you will be in the future, who you've always been. You just finding out about it. So you really just introduced to your own self.
Yeah. So people being reintroduced to themselves. Um, but a lot of that got to do with blocking out the wrong voices and the wrong people in your life. Because with the ego, if you hear God's voice, you don't listen to your own voice. And so a lot of people listen to their own voice, and that's why they edge God out when they supposed to be listening to his voice, and then it's gonna take people where they need to be. But a
Mhm.
lot of time people don't know which voice they listening to because they so used to listen to their own. When God is talking to them, they can't hear it, and so that's why it's important for us to check the ego, because a lot of times the ego, well, all the time the ego is going to be what you want, but it might not be what God wants.
Mhm.
And so when you listen to his voice, you keep the ego in check, um, but you know how to disarm the ego too.
So, like with disarming the ego, how would you? What's some practical way people could disarm the ego?
I mean, prayer is a good way to disarm it. Um, write about the things that set you up for a big fall. So recognize in the patterns that typically, led to a big fall, praying to disarm it, but establishing a community of people that will give you, good information or help you reel in the ego, and knowing which one is talking, which one are you operating from, because when you operate from your ego, it sounds different from when you're operating out of purpose. And so it go back to the question Vic asked about when you're making a decision based off the ego or based off, you know, um, operating purely in your ego. If if you talk with your community of people that you're connected with, a lot of the times they're gonna give you good information. If you solely make decisions based off your own perspective, then that's when you set yourself up for failure sometimes. It's okay to make decisions based off of your own perspective. But if all of your decisions are made off your own perspective, um, then you could be edging God out.
Mm.
So you were talking about community. So what what is the value of a community that you choose versus a community that God chooses?
Mm.
So a community that you choose could inflate your own will and not God's will,
Mm-hmm.
or impose your own will and not God's will. So I repeat that a community that you choose could inflate your own will and not God's, and it could take you on a path that you wasn't destined to be on. So it's can send you on a crash course to reality. So that's being humble versus, you know, having a godly community. They see what temptations you may struggle with, but you can have real discussions about the things that you're concerned about, or the things that try to tempt you or distract you. If you, and to go back to Vic said, if you always have people telling you what you're doing is right, and you won't have anybody helping you to see the pitfall to your demise, then you're operating with the wrong system. Because everybody shouldn't tell you how great you are, because they're not telling you the truth. Because everybody got areas of growth. And if nobody ever tell you about your stuff, then they're not equipped to go with you to that next phase in your life.
You're
Like my
only a
grandma
man.
used, like
You're
my
only
grandma
a
used to say, sometimes people got to tell you stink. That's what my grandma used to say. Sometimes people got to tell you your stuff stink. And if
Mm-hmm.
people don't tell you that your stuff stink, they not being honest with you.
Mm.
I'm trying like some comment. I'm trying to see what angle from just what Kendrick was saying. Oh, okay. Hello, something Vic said. One question that a mentor gave me for checking you out. Oh yeah, that's good. That's good there. That's good. That's good. That's good.
And that's a real question right there.
You just but it make you think how much stuff that God had done for you and you don't give him the credit.
Hey, it reminded me of that thank you speech that Snoop Dogg gave a little while back. I want to thank me for being me.
Uh-huh.
Hey, then the next one is T. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
No, go ahead.
No, so I was about to use the entourage. The entourage is a key sign that your ego is not in check. Because when you think about an entourage, it's almost a group of people holding you up, telling you how great you are, telling you what great things you've done, but all they do is setting you up for their ultimate blow. So we don't need an entourage of people, celebrating us. We need an entourage of people telling us where we need to grow from. So, and so all we was talking about is the purpose of having the right entourage versus the wrong entourage. I've been in church and I've seen pastors come in with a whole entourage of people when they walk through the door, and I wanted to put my finger up and walk out the door because I was like, yeah, that person right there is definitely bigger than God, and he don't know it. Your entourage should never lift you up and tell you, how great you are all the time. They can tell you that you're doing great things, but they should never tell you how great you are. Because it's not that you're great, it's the God in you that's doing great things. So we need the entourage to keep us grounded, not to keep us uplifted. People always mistake the reason for entourage. The entourage is to keep you grounded, not keep you uplifted. And if the entourage that you're surrounded with is keeping you uplifted in the air and your feet can't touch the ground, you better be real shaky and scary. Because when you fall, it's gonna be harder than you ever feel before.
That's a point that I was gonna hit. The word says pride comes before the fall. So if that entourage that you guys constantly holding you up, feeding your ego, when you fall, is that entourage gonna pick you up? So you gotta figure out which entourage do you want. Do you want the one that's gonna leave you there, or you want the entourage that's gonna pick you up and dust you off and keep you, give you a bandage or whatever, and help you along the way? Because
That's good.
choice is over.
Yeah,
You'll know which type of entourage you have. Cause you gotta think about all the people who, celebrities or whatever, have all these people around them, whatever, and then something happens, and then you look up and then everybody's gone.
What they call it, Jeffrey, they're distancing themselves from you.
Right.
When Jeff was saying that, it made me think about it's a sermon. It's coming.
It's coming soon.
Yeah. It made me think of a sermon that T.D. Jakes did about the different type of people you have around you. And so the people that's only there to lift you up, they're just confidants. Them just people you know. But the people that's really for you, they'll be there, like you were saying, after, before and after stuff happened. And I was watching last night, Kevin Hart had like a little docu-series about what happened after, you know, he cheated on his wife and all that kind of stuff, and his crew, and how it, you know, affected them, affected business stuff, just him going through the day-to-day stuff. And he kind of kept the same people around him, and they will be the ones to tell him the truth. But every time, and you will see the pattern, every time that he operated just in him and how he felt, it always went wrong. And then he would have to go back to the people and be like, my bad, like I messed up, like I was just in my feelings a little bit. And so like we never know how, when we react on certain things in one way, we never understand the ripples of the things to the people around us. So if we really want to go further into what God has for us, we have to realize that our actions speak for not only us, but it's representation not only God, but those connected to us too. And so you might have a moment like, man, this is what I want to do. I just want to do this right now. And we never understand the people that's connected to us, how they're affected. And so you have to be real careful and not have a moment where you just want to be about yourself and have an ego moment that then not only edges God out, but it edges the people that really love and care for you out too.
Yeah. And the other thing we want to tell people is everybody have ego moments, but when they got their godly community and godly circle, they just help them get back in alignment faster. And then the people that you want for entourage is when you fall and you break bones, that entourage picks you back up, takes you to the doctor, help nurses you, help you get better, check on you to see if you need anything to make sure you're good. That's the entourage that you want to have. The ones that you don't ever hear from when you hit your lowest is the people that you need to take note of and rid yourself or purge out of your life, because they are there what they can. They are there to be seen in your glory, but not when you need them in your wilderness moment. And so be weary of people that celebrate you and applaud you for their personal reasons and not for your own. So
I thought you were gonna say they don't know your story when you said glory. I thought I was
gonna say that, but Mel, hey, I was gonna say, but Mel was gonna talk about me. There you go rhyming again. There you go rhyming again.
I was feeling you were feeling churchy right then. I was about
to say it. So you read my mind. I was about to say it, but then I thought Mel was gonna say I'm rhyming again, so I didn't say it.
I would have said that. I would have just waved my hand.
Yeah, I was waiting for it. I was waiting amen on that.
We do want to put everybody on alert. You know, coming soon. You know, the barbershop talk series is coming soon. So get ready for it. And when we send you invitations to it, make sure you join. So we're gonna have a barbershop series for men. We're gonna have all type of workshops, loving you before loving yourself. Jump start to what?
Well, we got. I mean, jump start to your life. That'll probably be the workshop, standalone workshop. And you have I'm at a crossroads. I have an idea, and then we have a path to purpose thing. Well, we'll get to that.
So all we're doing is telling you what's about to happen, and we encourage you to support us when it happens, because what we're trying to do is shift towards getting everybody involved in the conversation. But getting everybody involved in the conversation is going to be a new way to focus on personal wellness. And it's going to be affordable, and it's going to take you places that you didn't think you could go, faster than you think you can go. But the most important thing is you're going to have fun with them. So this is the year of the shift. Shift is happening. Get ready to shift. I told him earlier I was in second gear. I think I'm in fourth gear now.
Now you in sport. You in sport. You in sport. You in
Get
sport.
ready. Only
Yeah.
reason I'm telling y'all this today, 'cause Terrence said something, and Jeffrey said something, Mill said something. So we got to go ahead and start telling people what shall be. So it's way closer than you think. I'm talking about like 1 to 2, about 2 weeks away before we release something. We
Yeah.
just want everybody to support us, and we'll continue to support whatever you have. So, if you want to share some on I'll Take the Journey page on Fridays, share things that uplift you and uplift other people. But let's continue to build this community that helps each other help each other.
Can I
And
come
we'll,
to the barbershop thing? Because since I go to the barber now, I can't come to the
I'm about to say something, Mayor, but I ain't. I'm gonna let you make it. I was
I know what he was about to
gonna.
say. Hey, I know what he was about to say. You about 3 weeks past due.
Yeah, I'm gonna be
About
good.
3 weeks past due. That's all I'm gonna say.
what?
Just about 3 weeks past due.
Now, look, I was gonna say you talking about barbershop. Says you the one on here looking like Anita Baker today with the hair.
Y'all see what I have to deal with?
Hey, Mel is celebrating her.
Okay, but I'm gonna say this though, because we're getting ready to close out. So, like I said, like what Kendrick was saying, we have a lot of things in the works. But we do need your help as far as sharing, liking, commenting. Huh?
I see you got a serious voice on.
Oh yeah. I switch gears. I can bring mine down. You can rev yours up. So, but we will have different ways, different clips and snippets of things that we talk about. Definitely start sharing those too, because we know everybody can't access the full content, the full version of what we do all the time. Some people don't have time, but we'll have smaller clips to give everybody, so you can interact with those. Like I said, if you like these types of conversations, I said definitely, like I said, you'll see David in the comment. Check out the Daily Perspective. David's about to do a lot more stuff too. I know him and his wife, they're about to start a relationship podcast. Then me and him do the Daily Perspective. We got some other stuff going. So if you like these type of conversations, definitely check those out. And what I wanted to leave with is a question: is does my life represent what God called me to do? And if it doesn't align with that, then you know where you at with ego and in the confidence. If he called you to something, he wouldn't call you to anything that he didn't equip you for.
All right, well, that's good stuff. As always, T has left y'all with a mouthful. We will see y'all on next week.
Y'all be blessed.
Have a good one.
Amen. Is it ended? Is it ended?